Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox Reviews, and thanks for logging on. The triumphant return of Watches Live. This is Watches Live number 12. Steel is real. Tonight our theme is all steel watches. We have the haute de gamme, we have the sports watches, we have watches for under $4,000 and watches for over $40,000. Now tonight we've got everything from the big three, Vacheron, Patek, and Audemars Piguet, to the stalwarts like Rolex, the off-center but well-loved like Jaeger-LeCoultre and Zenith. We've even got one watch from Japan on the table tonight. Can you guess the brand? This is Watches Live number 12. Of course, we are giving away fun, free stuff. You can see off to my side right here, we have the Audemars Piguet Go Offshore hat, one of the best ball caps I've ever seen in terms of fit, finish, and assembly. It feels its brand stature. We have a beautiful pre-packaged watch box for your travel convenience. We have a glorious French-manufactured Patek Philippe tie from one of our previous Patek events. And of course, for those of you who do believe that steel is real, Tudor, the hat, now available for free. How do you enter? You send me your name, mailing address, and phone number to tim@thewatchbox.com. If you've already entered in a previous show, you're in the raffle. If you've already won, you can win again. And if you're not a client, you don't live in the US, you can still win. This is just about getting your name randomly drawn, and I'm giving this stuff away during the broadcast, and I'm naming names. All right, friends joining us from around the world. I can see that our first in the box is Eddie Landsberg. If he had $1 for every time he was first, he's our favorite, but he would be a rich man buying one of these watches on credit right now. I can see Matt Foster, Russell 996, True Lie, Edward Ledden from Sweden, Christopher Jefferson. I can see TD Garage, Robin Rickett, Tom P, USK 13F, saying hi from Pakistan. Thank you for sticking with us. I know it's not easy to watch us live from Pakistan at this hour of the day. All right, let's launch right into tonight's slate. We've got 15 watches on the table, and we're going to start right at the top. A is the first letter of the alphabet, and Audemars Piguet is where we shall begin tonight's trek. Now, the watch you're looking at right here is the latest version of the standard automatic winding Royal Oak and steel. Now, this is the 15400, a watch that came into being in 2012. Now, there are 3 dials. One is silver, one is black, one is blue. All 3 of them are galvanized to create their aesthetic. They are the petite tapisserie. What you really can't see, and I don't know, Garrett, can you get really super crazy close to this one? The tapisserie pattern actually has a very fine cut to the point that there are the hobnails, yes, but then there's an interstitial texture between them. Now, the black is considered to be the second rarest after the blue, which is generally reserved for AP boutiques, but you get the same level of finish. Now, this is a pre-owned watch, so this is not a wait list piece, and it's selling for right around the retail of $17,900. So if you're backed up 2 years on the Patek Philippe Nautilus 5711 waitlist, you may want to consider this instead, available for immediate delivery. What I like to showcase is always the finish of an AP in steel, because you get the same beveling, and I may as well polish this one up because, let's face it, fingerprints aren't cool. And it's the standard of the finish that takes hours to execute. The hairline bevels that expand across the lugs and taper at the midcase, the satin finish across the top of the bezel, the hoods of the lugs, and the tops of the links. You can see the contrast between the satin finish of the top and the white gold bezel bolts. Yes, those bolts are white gold. White gold on the Royal Oak, stainless steel on the Offshore, and you can see that rounded polished finish to the edge of the hexagonal bezel. Since 1972 it's been an icon, but this full-sized 41mm version has only been out since 2012. Now, what you get when you buy an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak? Well, you also get a lot of fine finish on the inside. You can see the Audemars Piguet caliber 3120 inside, 60-hour power reserve, full balance bridge with a Gyromax style balance. You can see the 22-karat gold winding mass featuring the coats of arms of the Audemars and Piguet families, to remind you that AP is the oldest watchmaker continuously operating, still in the hands and management of founding family members. All right, now that watch, like I said, retails for about $17,900, and we're selling it for about $17,900. The reason I mention this is because we just found out that Patek Philippe will be increasing the price of the steel Nautilus 5711 1A by almost 25%. They will be increasing the price from $24,800 US to $30,000 as of March 1st. Now, the watch is waitlisted out to years, which means if you're not in line for immediate delivery, you're going to wind up paying $30,000 for that watch before tax. And this is going to be a global price hike, so that's before tax and VAT if you're in far-flung realms on the other side of the Atlantic. That's why I'm emphasizing there are other options, including pre-owned options, that are just as safe a buy from a resale perspective and available immediately without the premium pricing. Okay, now I note right here, Philip Sebastian Peterson shouting out, "Hey Tim," Sebastian Palacios, "Hey Tim," Christopher Jefferson, and please don't forget the Le Mans reminder, Tim, counting on you. I won't forget. I think he wanted me to remind everyone that you can buy a Blancpain Le Mans Tourbillon for about less than the price of a secondary market 5711 1A right now. And that is absolutely true and crazy and mind-blowing. And you should absolutely make that choice, financially responsible or not. Okay, also, this is an interactive show. So if you guys have questions for me, I'm making a cover of all watches. I'm going to try to hit each one individually and do speed dating of a sort with each timepiece, but I want to interact with you guys and give away free stuff. Let me quickly jump into my giveaways and see who has joined us. Okay, our first winner of the night, Sebastian Schulte of New Jersey. Tri-stater like myself. I'm from Long Island, New York. Sebastian, you've just won a Patek Philippe tie. Don't worry, that's real tough. That's the Tudor hat. Okay, beautifully made, assembled in France, silken in texture, and beautifully luxurious in its volume and shimmering sheen. This is a tie that looks and feels its namesake. This is the Patek Philippe tie made expressly for Govberg. Congratulations. Sebastian Schulte, you are our first winner of the night. All right, get that Tudor hat back up there because someone's going to take it home tonight. We're going to send it to you. No need to pay shipping. Moving on to another Royal Oak. Of course, it started in 1972 with the Royal Oak, but it continued in 1993 with the Offshore. And the watch you see here was part of the Themes series of the 2000s. So this is the Royal Oak Offshore Themes Volcano. The watch came out in 2008, so you're getting the in-house caliber 3126 with the 3840 vertical clutch chronograph module. Now, I'm not quite sure what tone of orange you guys are seeing. It almost looks like a sort of reddish orange in the imagery. It is a pure shock of signal orange. I mean, this is like airstrip ambulance orange. It's that bright, and it's shocking against the black backdrop. You'll note the mega tapisserie of the dial is not the galvanized coloration that you see on the standard Royal Oak. It's a beautiful gloss, so it has a shimmer, it has a shine, it has a sort of depth and the appearance of being wet. And in conjunction with that orange set of white gold numerals, hands, and tachymeter scale, this is simply a stunning watch. Now, I've called out watchmakers for not making enough orange watches. AP, you never disappoint me. You can see it's on the hornback strap, so it's a centrally splined alligator leather, very thick cut and profile. You can see something I love about the Offshores, which is that like the standard Royal Oaks, albeit with heavier hardware, the strap is fixed with screws to the case, so you don't have to worry about spring bars giving way on your heavy and expensive luxury sports watch. Also, you'll note the watch features the beautiful full deployant AP high-polished stainless steel clasp for additional security and a little bit of stylistic flair. What I really love about this watch is that it's not as thick as you think. It's 14 millimeters thick, which means if you've got the panache to pull this off in a suit, it will fit underneath a blazer or a sport jacket cuff. And of course, you're getting the same standard of metal finish that I showed you on the Royal Oak. If you look at them side by side, you can see the same kind of polished tapers, contrast between satin and polish, and even the diminishing hairline of the flanking bevel. You can see that along the side. You can see how it diminishes toward the mid case. That's achieved by hand. That sort of thing is not done by a machine in a CNC. It's as finely finished in its outrageous way as the standard Royal Oak, and I love that. AP with no compromise, even if you're buying a 100-meter water-resistant, oversized chronograph, and the Volcano is one of my favorite Offshores. Okay, Questions coming through right here. Tim, what are your thoughts on the AP Royal Oak Safari? The classic one, not the new one. You're talking about the 26170 ST Safari made from 2007 up until 2013. Okay, a number of differences, but the main one is going to be the coloration of the dial. The new one features more contrast between the sub-registers and the main dial, and also the caseback. The new one features a display caseback plus ceramic crown shoulder and pushers. I like the original for a number of reasons. One, it helped to jumpstart the theme series. After the Safari, we started seeing the Panda, we saw the Volcano, we saw the Bumblebee, we saw the Navy. The series really came into its own after that, so it was a trendsetter. Also, it was the first of the mainstream Royal Oaks to feature the hornback strap, which has kind of become the default strap for the Royal Oak and something you expect to find on these models. It's also one of the most versatile, so if you've got the wrist and the style to pull off a Royal Oak offshore with formal attire, the Safari, especially the older one with less tonal contrast, is the one to use. Either that or the Panda. Those are watches you can wear just about anywhere in spite of their bombast. Okay, so Written and Worn is saying, I would get a 36mm vintage-ish regular AP in steel. I have just the thing for you, because speaking of 36mm and vintage-ish in steel, in 2006, Patek Philippe was celebrating its Rue de Rhône boutique in Geneva. And in the honor of the factory boutique in its hometown, Patek released this, the 5565A, stainless steel, 300 pieces, 36mm, powered by a Geneva Hallmark caliber 215, I should say, manual wind. You can see it has a spectacular contrast between satin and opaline dial finishes, applied and blackened white gold indices to match syringe-style hands with a sector-style minute track, and yes, luminescence. Turn it over and you can see the image of the boutique. Still there, it still looks exactly like this. If you go to visit it, go up to the 6th floor, that's where they keep the grand complications. If ever you were looking to invest in steel, this is the one. Now, as you can see, the watch is still conspicuously packaged, so you will be the first to put your DNA on this watch. That's worth something by itself. So too is the fact that although the 5711 1A has been in production since 2006, this was only ever made in 2006. In 300 copies, how many of them are still in the plastic? That one has your name on it, man. 36mm, as classical as it gets, and so rare. And by the way, I do think that the market for the 5711 1A will bust. I don't think people are going to continue paying $40,000 for those hand over fist ad infinitum. I do believe eventually there will be a correction, and I don't think anyone will lose buying new, even at $30,000, but I do think if you're going to be buying $45,000 on the secondary market once the watch is 30 grand new, you do stand to lose. You will not lose on this. Every once in a while, and I got a comment from Written and Worn responding to that 36mm beauty. That's a beautiful Patek. That's an attractive Patek. He says, you and I agree. That's my style watch. I like your taste. That said, you can buy a steel Patek Philippe for less than its original retail. In 2014, I have to say my jaw was a bit dropped by this watch. First, because it's a logical extension of the 5960 flyback chronograph annual calendar, and because it does a more than plausible impression of a French mime. At 40.5mm in stainless steel, guys, can we go to the macro? Thanks so much. You can see this is the Patek Philippe 5960 1A, 40.5mm. You're getting the flyback chronograph, and yes, it's a flyback chronograph with an annual calendar, automatic winding. There's a power reserve scale at 12 o'clock. You can see there's an AM PM indicator inside the hours and minutes mono counter. So automatic winding, vertical clutch, column wheel, flyback chronograph, annual calendar, power reserve on a full Patek Philippe bracelet. This is a watch that you need to consider if you're thinking about buying a steel haute de gamme sports watch. Now, while it retailed for $51,000, we're selling this one for somewhere in the high 30s. I'm not sure the exact number. You're going to have to call my good friend Joshua Thanos to get exact pricing. But the bottom line is you'll pay less than the original owner with no compromise in fit, finish, or features. You can't get this level of functionality in a Nautilus. You can get the flyback chronograph in the 5980, And in the 5726, you can get the annual calendar, but you can't get both. For me, this is the steel Patek to own. If you're into complication, you want to get value. Pay less than the original owner with no compromise in features, fit, or finish. This is the caliber CH28520. And as you can see, beautifully executed with Patek Philippe trademarks like the now de rigueur double interlocking Patek Philippe seal, column wheel chronograph architecture with vertical clutch so you can leave the chronograph running continuously. Moreover, Gyromax free-sprung balance, beating away at 21,800 vibrations per hour, and ceramic rotor bearings with an efficient unidirectional winding system that gives you 45 to 55 hours of power reserve. It's gorgeous, it's mechanically adept, it's one of Patek's newest in-house calibers, and you're getting all of this for under $40,000. Now, I mentioned that you can keep the chronograph running because of the vertical clutch. Why do you care? Because this watch does not have a constant seconds hand. So if you want to read the seconds in real time, you want to leave the chronograph running. You can't do that with a lateral clutch like a 5170 or a 5070. In this, you can. And it has the splash of color that I absolutely love on high-end watches. Okay, Matthew Engelson joining us from Princeton, New Jersey, another tri-stater. Will Vaz is saying, I like the white dial. You and I both. And I have to say the white dial on that watch is even more fetching in person because it has a slight opaline texture and a bit of an off-white tinge that gives it some warmth, otherwise lacking on a white dial, white metal case. So Joshua Polanski, Patek Philippe, always a great movement, but I'm convinced Lange is making nicer movements lately. I do like the look of Lange movements better. They're warmer to me, more accessible, more charming, more vintagey if you're into a pocket watch aesthetic. They are both finished to the same standard. I would not say one is better finished than the other. It's different, and it comes down to taste. That said, I do not have a steel Lange, and if I did, believe me, it would be the highlight of tonight's show. Lange rarely does steel. A few charity pieces, you'll be able to bid on one, the 1815 Homage to Walter Lange, auctioned by Philips this May 12th and May 13th. Make a bookmark, make a footnote, set it in iCalendar on your phone or computer, because that's a rare opportunity to get steel Lange. In 1998, they did a few Lange ones in steel, and for a very brief period, back when they actually thought this was a good idea and they wouldn't get robbed right and left, they made Saxonia loaner watches in steel for people who had watches in for service, and they never got those watches back. Are you surprised? All right. So I see Shariat asking, hi Tim, what's the best cheap steel watch I can get on the market? Well, that's a great question, and I've got a decent answer for you. You know what? More than decent. Let me see, where have I got that watch, guys? I have somewhere, possibly off camera. I'm going to go a little bit out of character here. Bum, ba bum, bum, bum. Bum, ba bum, 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 bum. Oh well, absent hardware, I have a Grand Seiko SBGE 005 Spring Drive GMT, a watch that's 41 millimeters in steel. If you go on our website right now, 72-hour power reserve. Spring Drive gives you mechanical watchmaking with quartz accuracy. You get a GMT function, again, 72 hours of autonomy, so if you want to put this one down for a day or two and cycle through your collection, it's a great option. And the dual time, honestly, alongside the alarm, probably one of the two most practical complications you'll encounter, whether you're a businessman with far-flung friends and family or business associates, or you're a traveler yourself. That would be my answer. You can get that watch on our website for under $4,000. If steel is real, that's a great example. Okay, so for under $4,000, we got a question from Sebastian, wrist check. I am a little bit embarrassed to say I'm wearing gold tonight. It would have been great to continue the theme, but this is a watch I love. It's a 4-year, going on 5-year love affair. This was my dream watch. It remains my dream watch. White gold Jaeger-LeCoultre Duomet chronograph. How often do you actually take the Grail in hand and still regard it just as highly? That watch is sizzling. I love this piece. 200 made, 2010 limited edition. All right. I see Yahia Balba, hello from Egypt. Thanks for staying with us through the wee hours of the night. Okay, so now I can't give you a cheap watch because I consider any watch priced in four figures to be expensive. Let's face it, there's some countries where people make that in a year. But I can give you a more affordable option. So let's continue our journey through the Valet de Jeu from Audemars Piguet. We talked a little bit about one of Jaeger-LeCoultre's neighbors at AP. Let's talk about the JLC Memovox World Time. Now, I talked about the World Time in conjunction with the dual time being highly practical, but I also said alarms are where it's at. Now, I'm sorry, this watch has a little bit of fingerprint schmutz on it. My apologies. This is a 2010 limited series of 750 designed to pay tribute to the Jaeger-LeCoultre Memovox 3161 of the 1950s, also known as the Memovox World Time. Now, this is the caliber 956, so it's vocal, it's impressive, not just because of the stark contrast between its 40mm steel case and that black dial with guilloche center, but because this one quite honestly has a voice of its own that deserves to be heard. So let me fire this one up, and for under $8,000 you could have this limited edition steel JLC. I wound it about 10%. It'll run 10 times longer than that, and it will wake you up even if you're wearing earplugs. Put it down on a wood table or nightstand, it gets louder still. This is Valet de Jeu watchmaking, complication accessible from a great house. A watch that I would absolutely buy and own myself if we weren't seriously talking about having a Tim Mosso limited edition Memovox made, and I have to save my bullets for that. But in terms of the combination of case and dial, black dials are here to stay. They are forever. They will forever hold a premium over silver and white dials. While the blue dial fad may come and go, black is awesome, now and forever. If you want an enduring combo that you can wear with anything, whether a tuxedo or short sleeves, this would be it, and this would be my pick for an accessibly priced automatic winding alarm from a great brand with a wonderful tradition. If you want the Jaeger-LeCoultre, an iconic piece, you're going to buy a Memovox alarm or you're going to buy a Reverso. Okay. Moving along, SK saying, my tired ears can't hear the Tudor Advisor at all. That's okay. I've got a Jaeger-LeCoultre for you. All of that said, let's remember that there's more to the Valet de Jeu than Audemars Piguet and Jaeger-LeCoultre. And if you want a watch that's accessibly priced, I have to be honest, this one also for under $8,000 for about $7,900. Again, with negotiations, see how skillful you are, you might get it for less. This is the Blancpain Reference 5000 Bathyscaphe. 43mm, a watch that came out in 2013, a more purist-oriented, stripped-down, and aesthetically clean version of the grandstanding Reference 5015 45mm. That watch in high-polished steel with its thick profile, its sapphire-capped bezel, and its explicitly luxury persona puts off some sports watch purists. For them, there's the Bathyscaphe. Sunburst gray dial, ceramic bezel, in this case not sapphire but ceramic with liquid metal fill, perma-bonded so it will never separate. You can see it has white gold vintage style hands and applied indices. What you get inside, however, is the same finish and mechanical specification that you get on the 5015. This watch features a silicone anti-magnetic hairspring, 5 days of power reserve, automatic winding, a blackened white gold winding mass, entirely hand finished with mirrored anglage, and a ridiculously intricate grained finish across the bridges. All of the jewel countersinks feature the same partridge eye or mirrored anglage treatment as the edge of the bridges. This is a tough, free-sprung architecture that is sports watch tough, shock resistant and anti-magnetic with 300-meter water resistance from a company that makes between 5,000 and 10,000 watches a year, which is to say they make about 1/4 as many watches as Audemars Piguet, potentially 1/8 as many as Audemars Piguet. Hacking seconds with a quick change for the date, this is a full-featured watch with a charmingly archaic, oversized crown, big crown style for you 50s and 60s dive watch purists. This is the Blancpain 50 Fathoms you buy if you think the current 45mm 5015 is just a little too rich for your taste. Beautifully executed in satin finish with those gorgeous flaring bevels. This is a handsome watch from a high horology brand, hand finished on the inside, tough and hard on the outside. As they say, there is more than the Holy Trinity to high horology, and you Longophons know that, but Blancpain is a brand that does not get enough good press and deserves more. It's a favorite of the house, me being the house. Okay, let's give something away. We're giving away freebies tonight. I'm picking winners. And Will Greenberg of Douglaston, New York, just by coincidence, another tri-stater. Do we have like a cluster bedbug style of viewers in the tri-state area, like Connecticut, New Jersey, and New York? I love you dudes. But let me see, what can I give away now? I've got a watch box for you, so when you travel to Baselworld this year, you can put the watch that's not on your wrist, or the watch that you bring back that you did not buy in Switzerland for customs purposes, in this box. So this is a handsome, special, single slot watch box from me, Govberg, and Watchbox to you. Watchbox gives you a watch box. Imagine that. Congratulations, Will Greenberg. You are our latest winner. Okay, moving on. Remember, guys, this is an interactive show. Ask me your questions, and I'll shoot back. And send me your name, your mailing address, and your phone number so I can pick you from the raffle. If you've already entered, you're already in. If you've sent me your name previously, you're already in. If you've already won, yes, you can still win again, so you're already entered. All right, Tom Hung shouting a congrats out to Will. Steve Bowden, Mossovox. I want this to happen, and I will buy this with my own cash money. It's got to have some combination of the green and the glasses and a dark dial. I don't care what color, but I would love for the dial to be green. And preferably electric green. I could deal without the dark dial if it's literally this green on the dial. That would be the end. That would be like if I die that day, I would die fulfilled. I would become an ascended being, Stargate style. Stargate the show, not the movie. The movie doesn't count. I'm a classicist. All right. Written and worn saying the Blancpain is beautiful. I can see he's a sports watch traditionalist. And for those of you who are sports watch traditionalists, let's remember that from the House of Panerai comes some of the most appealing, historically inspired timepieces of our era. Now, Panerai has only been making civilian watches since 1993, but last year, Panerai got my memo, and they released 3 watches with a gorgeous green dial. Now this is the PAM 736, the Radiomir 1940 3 days, PAM 736. Now our friend Araz, who actually took a phone photo with me at SIHH this year, owns this exact watch. It's the only one of the 3 green-dialed boutique exclusives from last year that is stainless steel. The other 2 are titanium, so tougher and heftier in the hand. It feels like a luxury piece. I love the domed profile of the sapphire, which creates the look of a vintage plexi, as well as the richness of those rose gold hands. This is a rare case where I think that the vintage-style faux patina lume looks good, not because of its faux patina quality, but because it is so aesthetically consonant with that green. I'm glad that Panerai didn't use a cloying green, that they didn't pander. From across the room, this looks like slate, but it's a rare case of getting this green on a Panerai that is not one of the so rare you can't find them bronzos. A beautiful watch with a P3000 manual wind Panerai in-house 3-day caliber, beautiful 3/4 style bridges, not a true 3/4, you can see it's split for ease of service, but with a full balance bridge and a free sprung balance, it is sports watch tough, and you can see the pivots for the twin mainspring barrels, nicely finished like a vintage Angelus SF240 caliber. This is a beautiful watch on either side. Now, of course, the watch is also rare, as 300 of these were made, so you get your steel sports watch pricing, you get your exclusivity, you get your flash of color, in-house watchmaking savoir-faire, you get that gorgeous bubble-like profile from the side, and 100 meters water resistant. This is a full-featured sports watch for when you hit the Italian Riviera this winter. Moreover, again, we talk about purists. This is a purist Panerai, evolving the brand without changing the essential aesthetic. And it's even got a little bit of a secret. I talk about travelers and travel complications, but the watch has a traveler's feature. Without stopping the movement, note it hasn't hacked the seconds, you can adjust the hours. Whether you jump forward or backwards across the international date line, you can step the watch in 1-hour increments without affecting its chronometric precision. And you've got to love that oversized vintagey crown. all in high polish. Because of the Radiomir 1940 case, it wears its weight as well as its glossy gleam well. Because of the contours of the case and the sharp character lines, it never seems monolithic. It's just plain handsome. I also have to say, that's a fantastic option for those who are looking to budget under $10,000 for a true sports watch, because we're selling that watch, I believe, for under $8,000 like some of the others on the table. It's a great option if you want to spend GMT black and blue money without the weight on something that will always have appeal and hold its value well. Now, comments coming through. Sebastian Palacio saying the green dial looks perfect with that honey brown strap. I agree, and that's why I'm okay with the vintage faux patina lume, because if you just think of it as a color and not an attempt to ape vintage radium dials, it's really appealing. It's warm, it's charismatic, and it's well suited to the dial color. Also, comments coming through to the effect, Fred Sau saying, or Fred Sau, I believe is how it's pronounced. He's saying, usually don't like Panerais, but that green and fauxtina, I'm going to let you coin that and give you full credit, is perfect. Edward Ledden, hey Tim, what do you think of the Omega Seamaster 300 meter apnea Jacques Mayol chronograph? There are two versions, a vertically satin-grained silver dial, off-white silver, and a black dial. I like the black dial better. I think it's probably the most original and intriguing Omega chronograph of all time, although the NZL32 is definitely on that list. I like the black dial 2003 Jacques Mayol apnea, and I think you can find all sorts of uses for the apnea 14-minute dive feature without actually holding your breath for a quarter of an hour. Sad end to Jacques Mayol's life, but a great man, a great legacy, and a series of wonderful watches, of which I consider the apnea chronograph to be the most special and the most desirable. A great piece. Okay, Carlos T. Tim, between the FP Journe Octa Sport Titanium on rubber and spending a little more on the Aquanaut Travel Time, which one would you get and why? Well, I don't worship at the cult of Patek Philippe sports watches. I would say if you can get an Octa Sport in aluminum, that would be my choice of the watches you didn't mention. But since you didn't ask, I'm not going to be arrogant in that way. I'm going to say the Octa Sport in titanium, regardless of which model you get, is fantastic. Just the standard Octa automatic is a bomber watch. It's worth everything FP Journe asks for it and then maybe a little bit more. The movement is still aluminum, very hard to execute. No one else is doing that. The watch is feather light, so it's a little bit unnerving. Wear this one before you choose it, because some people are put off by that, but you absolutely get what you pay for. And FP Journe resale value, especially among the Octa Sports, is very strong. So I would consider that to be just as safe a play if you buy it pre-owned, especially, as the Aquanaut Travel Time. That said, if you need a second time zone, the Aquanaut 5164 is your only game in town between those two choices. I like them all. I would go with the FP Journe. Okay. Now, Joshua Polanski saying, I tried on the Octa in the store. It was crazy light. Yes, try before you buy. Or buy one pre-owned from us, because we have a 7-day, no questions asked, buyer's remorse included return policy. Moving on through the watches we've got tonight, I want to emphasize that you can get an awful lot of we've shown you simple watches, like we've shown you the Bathyscaphe, we've shown you the PAM 736, but I want to emphasize that you can get a complicated watch, even a very complicated watch, for reasonably accessible money. So for $5,950, consider this Zenith Captain Windsor El Primero annual calendar chronograph. It's a 36,000 vibration per hour, 50-hour power reserve El Primero high beat chronograph. It's an annual calendar with a day, a date, and a month. It features the El Primero base, beautifully executed for a mainstream caliber. It features Ludwig Oxland's own annual calendar mechanism. Ludwig Oxland is the man behind Ulysse Nardin classics like the Trilogy of Time, like the GMT Plus Minus Perpetual and the Perpetual Ludwig, the godfather of the Freak and the Sonata. This is designed in part by him. Only 9 additional parts in a planetary array to create the annual calendar. You get Zenith El Primero, you get Ludwig Oxland, one of the maestros of our era, 42 millimeters in steel with handsome rose gold tones on the dial. Guys, this is how two-tone should be done. This doesn't feel like something a South Beach lawyer on his third hip and his fourth wife would wear. This is two-tone as I would wear it myself. And again, 42 millimeters in steel with a slick combination of satin-finished lug hoods and polished flanks. This is an awesome watch. It even comes on a gorgeous alligator leather strap with a rubber underlay that feels a treat on the wrist and a full double deployant clasp in steel with trigger actuation for security. And this is for under $6,000. Very compelling. This is one for those who like a lot of watch for their money. I'll also mention it's not the only Zenith option we've got. Now, a little bit less complication, but possibly a bit more character as well. We have the Zenith El Primero Chronomaster Power Reserve Tribute to Charles Vermeau. Now, Charles Vermeau is known as the line foreman from Zenith, who actually hid the tooling to make the El Primero movement in 1975. So he hid the movement, assembly components, instructions, a lot of unfinished calibers, and the actual tooling and dies in the attic of the manufacturer. They had a lot of unused buildings in those days during the downswing of the quartz crisis, and it wasn't until the mid-80s that all of this was taken out of storage and revealed by him to be still available and usable, and immediately Zenith started making the El Primero for customers and its own watches immediately. This watch came out in 2014, almost 20 years later, as a tribute to Charles Vermeau, the savior of the El Primero. They were going to scrap the movement dies and tooling, of course, because the American owners wanted to focus on quartz watches. 20 years later, or I should say 19, you got this. 42 millimeters with spectacular sunburst blue dial and a caliber 4021 El Primero with an open escapement that you can see 10% the price of a tourbillon. I would say it gives you 90% of the visual interest and intrigue of a tourbillon. You can even note the full silicon escapement. You can see the palette as well as the star-shaped wheel that acts as the escape. A giant fourth wheel pinion bearing a remote tri-spoke for the seconds. This is a visually spectacular watch that features the high beat El Primero chronograph caliber. And I'm sorry, I called this one the Power Reserve. This is not the Power Reserve model. This is the standard model with 50-hour Power Reserve. And as you can see, El Primero high beat caliber on the case back. This is a phenomenal watch that you can pick up for under $5,000. Throw it on a rubber strap or a textile, it's 100 meters water resistant. People often ask me, Tim, what is a sub $5,000 watch I can buy that can be my only watch? Well, this is it, and this would be one of my choices in that price range. Can we do something about the autofocus, guys? It's going a bit nuts. There we go. A beautiful piece. Highly accessible. All right. Claudio is already at home eating dinner and watching. Tim, do not say the Q word. You got it. Okay, Eric Nielsen, haven't seen many dogs by Zenith, especially the ones Tim is showing off. The stuff is strong. The strongest modern era of Zenith was between 2010 and about 2015. That was the Jean-Frédéric Dufour era. There's a reason why he was poached to go to Rolex in 2014. He did a great job with the brand, and the watches he championed, especially the wacky and weird retro timer, contemporary classic guy, future installment on a blog to watch of an article I'm going to write. But JF Dufour did incredible things, left for Rolex in 2014. His influence lingered through about 2015. Then we started to see the Jean-Claude Biver watches, which are hit or miss. He's had some good ones. He's also had some off-base Hublot-esque Zeniths. I'm still waiting. The jury's out. Okay. Question from Steve Bowden. Is J.C. Biver still the man in charge at Zenith? Pretty much. At Tag Heuer, Hublot, and Zenith, he's still in charge as the overarching chairman of all watchmaking activities. He does not run Bulgari. That is a discrete business unit run by Jean-Christophe Bebin. They have their own budget, marketing, and product planning. Okay, so tonight we've talked about a broad range of watches. We talked about the two big houses of the Holy Trinity. AP and Patek are going gangbusters right now. Stiff prices on steel watches and a ton of brand equity. But I actually have a soft spot in my heart for Vacheron Constantin, a great house that I really hope is going to pick itself up in the next year with strong offerings like the 56 and new wind behind the sales of the third generation Overseas that came out in 2016. But before that, we had the second generation Overseas and this classic. My favorite Overseas of all time, this is reference 49020, 42 millimeters with steel case and titanium satin finished bezel. This is the Overseas Perpetual calendar chronograph. It's a perpetual calendar. It's a vertical clutch, column wheel chronograph, automatic winding with a Frédéric Piguet base, doing business as Vacheron caliber 1136 QP. This is a high horology movement in a high horology watch. The standard of finish that you get on this case, the bevels, the satin, actually, you could see the contrast between the satin of the bezel and the polish of the flanks, the contrast between the satin of the lug hoods, the polish of the bevel and the flanks, the degree of detailing on both sides of this case. A solid anti-magnetic Faraday cage and soft iron around the movement, giving it 25,000 ampere per meter anti-magnetism, and in spite of the through fittings on the case and the chronograph, you can see the through fittings, the watch still retains 150 meter water resistance. You can see, just like the Royal Oak Offshore, the straps are fitted with screws rather than spring bars, and you can see the degree of finishing, the metallurgy, the hand-wrought finish is the same degree of quality. And you're getting this watch, which originally sold for over $61,000 new, for $43,000, and you're getting it with all of the accessories, and the watch comes with a steamer trunk of them. This is my choice for best overseas of the second generation, a 2011 Vacheron Boutique limited edition. Only 80 of these were made. This is a watch I absolutely love for its contrast, its use of multiple metals, that gorgeous blasted dial finish, the contrast between the yellow and the anthracite of the dial, the contrast between the white printing and the black of the tack and the sub-registers. This is gorgeous, and this is my choice of all the sports watches on the table tonight. That said, there's been a lot of talk about Vacheron's new 56 line. People are asking for $11,700. Does it feel like a Vacheron? And can you justify going off the Geneva Seal standard for the movement? I say, why choose? Because in this 2018, we mark the 10th anniversary of one of the most controversial and original and inspired Vacheron Constantin model lines. In 2008, the watch no one can pronounce, the Key to Lille, launched into a world in economic crisis. But in 2016, we saw the Key to Lille in steel. Continuing tonight's theme, this is the reference 4500 with caliber 5100S. Black dial. You can see it actually features an orbital date. There's the indicator. The date indicator orbits the dial. The dial is loomed. The tones are anthracite, white, and black. The case is complex and beautifully finished. How beautifully finished? Well, this is the post-2012 Geneva Seal standard, which means you have Geneva Seal standard of dial and case and movement. This is a watch that retails for about $15,000. Pre-owned, it's $10,500, and therein lies the rub. You can have a Geneva Seal Vacheron Constantin, Geneva Seal finish inside and out, with a 60-plus hour automatic winding power reserve, ceramic rotor bearings, all the modern standards, no compromise in quality, for $1,200 less than the 56 self-winding, the entry-level 56. So here's the question. At 41 millimeters in steel, with a shocking duality of satin and polish for dramatic contrast, still that glorious modular case design we first saw in 2008, Geneva Seal in-house caliber 60-hour power reserve, do you buy this for $1,200 less than the new 56 self-winding? Let me get those smudgy fingerprints off so you can make your decision fully informed. This would be my choice, and this would be first by far among those two choices. I love the 56, it's well designed, but it does not compare to this. And again, this is a watch for $10,500. If you're a sharp negotiator, I'm sure Josh would let you have it for under 10 grand. Geneva Hallmark, still under warranty. All right, let's give something away. Okay. Bum, ba, bum, ba, bum. So you know we're giving stuff away, guys. Send me your name, your phone number, and your mailing address so I can send you some free stuff. We're talking about steel, steel being real, and among steel sports watches, Tudor is one of the names that is foremost. So let's give a free watch tonight, or free watch hat. Almost had you. I will be giving away a free watch in an upcoming episode, guys. That is happening. Stay tuned. Okay. True Lie from Ontario, Canada. congrats, you just won a Tudor hat. See, I do give stuff away from guys who are not from my immediate geographic vicinity. Truly, congratulations, man, I'm sending you a Tudor hat. That's a great one to own too, because Tudor makes nice hats. All right, so considering what we've been through tonight, what we have yet to discuss, and the fact that our time is running short, let's cut straight to the chase. I often say, I begin with A, I end with Z, and in a sense, I can end with Z tonight, but we're going to start with what might be considered the IT watch of 2017. This was the steel and gold Rolex Sky Dweller. Now, this is technically the 326934. The only part of it that's white gold is that fluted ring command bezel. A watch that's a GMT, so it has a 24-hour dial for a second time zone, and it's an annual calendar. 100 meters water resistant, so it's a sports watch you can wear just about everywhere. Slim in profile, despite the fact that it looks thick. It's right around 14 millimeters, wears easily with a dress cuff. A versatile combination of a black dial and a white metal, plus so robustly loomed you can see this one from across a darkened room. This is the steel and this is the gold, but mostly steel, Rolex Sky Dweller. And again, if you want to pay under $20,000 for a steel sports watch for which you can take immediate delivery still under warranty, don't shell out $30,000 or more and get on a multi-year wait list for a 5711. Consider this. This is a lot of complication for your money. This is the best of both worlds. This is like getting your steel Aquanaut travel time and your red-hot 5711, so hot that yes, we are selling it for over retail, but again, still under $20,000. You've got the it factor of the 5711 and the dual-time complication of the 5164 Aquanaut with the addition of the annual calendar you would get on the Nautilus 5726. That's a mouthful, and that's a watchful. But like I said, we're going from A to Z, which is why I'm ending on Z. And by that, I mean Milgauss GV Z Blue. My favorite Rolex, the one I would buy if I had to buy now and put it on my own wrist for my own coin. This is the wackiest watch Rolex makes, and the wackiest watch it's made in a long time. The watch came out at Baselworld 2014, and it dropped jaws. It remains a special timepiece to the point that I've only held 2 of these in my hand since I started doing videos for Watchbox and Govberg. Now, the timepiece is easily the rarest of the modern 116400 reference Milgauss. So if you wanted to buy one as a speculative purchase, this watch is selling for both below retail, as we've got it for under $8,000, and like I said, it is a scarce commodity, and it is a steel Rolex sports watch. It's green, it's white, it's orange, it's blue, it's sunburst. It's incredibly dynamic to the point that I can't tell you this watch looks the same from any 2 angles. It's a chameleon in steel, and I can't think of a better way to bring tonight's Steel is Real show to a close. Again, this is the one I would buy. It's got a tinge of my favorite color green and plenty of my second favorite color blue. Plus, I said watchmakers need to make more orange watches. Rolex, you're getting there. Continue the thought. 100 meters water resistant and anti-magnetic. This is an awesome watch and clean without a cyclops or a date. Believe it or not, if you've got the zany postmodern irony and the sensibility to wear it with formal attire, yes, this is an aesthetically balanced dress watch because it is, after all, the man who makes the watch and not the other way around. To our winners, thank you so much. To those who have not yet entered or may be watching this recorded, send me at tim@thewatchbox.com your name, your mailing address, and your phone number so I can enter you in the next drawing. You will automatically enter the raffle when I start the next episode next Tuesday. For everyone who joined us, thank you so much for getting up early, staying up late, and participating in the live chat. You guys are the best audience on YouTube. 0 trolls, tons of enthusiasm, men after my own heart, possibly a few gals too. Thank you so much. This is Watchbox. I'm Tim. They're the amigos, and we're going home.